Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar, The Hidden Costs of Project Management Nobody Wants to Talk About and What to Do About Them. This event, brought to you by Engineering News Record, is sponsored by eBuilder. I'm your moderator, Derek Teal, Content Deployment Manager at Engineering News Record. Thanks for joining us. Today's presenters are Dan Connery, Capital Program Advisor at eBuilder, Gary Younger, Director of Program and Project Controls at Northeastern University, and Chris Berner, Chief Project Officer at the Foothill Gold Line Construction Authority. Throughout his 24-plus-year career, Dan Connery has leveraged a unique blend of backgrounds from the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, project and program management, and software industry to position tech companies for growth. He most recently served as Vice President of Business Development at Nuforma and had key product roles at Oracle Primavera. Gary Younger oversees project control and facilities information technology functions to institute and maintain technology which supports capital project delivery and facilities operations that enhance the campus environment. He manages the integration and ongoing operation of eBuilder with Banner Financials, Archibus, and Meridian Blue Cello. Chris Berner provides overall executive direction through senior management staff for all planning, engineering, and construction functions to ensure successful completion of the Foothill Extension Light Rail project, as well as policy direction to assigned major functional areas, directs establishment of goals, major priorities, and develops strategies to resolve major project issues. Before we begin today's presentation, please enjoy this brief instructional video on how to use your webinar console.
Welcome to this webinar. Before we begin the presentation, I want to provide you with a few housekeeping items. On your screen, you will see a taskbar with icons. Each icon is assigned to a particular element of today's webinar. After the webinar is over, please take our survey to tell us how we've done. Throughout the presentation, you can network with others or submit questions to the speakers in the box next to the slides. Download resources from the folder icon. Today's event is being recorded and archived and will be available within 24 hours. For on-demand questions or comments, send us an email by clicking Email Us. If you experience any technical issues today, please refresh your browser by hitting F5 for a PC or Command R for Macs, or email webinars@bmpmedia.com for one-on-one support. And now I'm excited to turn it over to today's moderator.
Don't forget to submit your questions, and later in the program, our presenters will address as many as possible. Today's event is being recorded and archived on enr.com/webinars. And now I'm excited to turn it over to today's first presenter, Dan Connery. Dan?
Thank you, Derek. So I want to set a little bit of context for everybody about what we at eBuilder are focused on. And our primary focus is on enabling repeat builders to improve their capital execution, making construction faster, less expensive, and more reliable. And really what we want to do is help our customers free up their time and energy for society's higher purpose. In other words, what they actually do for work. So what I want to start with is two areas. I'm going to share two areas of research that we've done with you, and if you're interested in the research, we'll give you links in our follow-up email. But I want to start today's discussion outlining the impact of what it's like or what happens when you run a capital program without a project information management system, and that's what we mean by PMIS. And so we partnered with Dodge Data and Analytics to survey owner organizations, and the results still show that on average, projects still come in 85% of the time over budget. They come in 92% of the time over schedule or behind schedule, and still have quality issues. And the most disconcerting part of this is the 92%, because as a lot of us know, really for a lot of owners, getting projects online early is very, very important. So the fact that 92% are still behind schedule is a little bit disconcerting. And many of our customers are building as a means to an end. They need facilities operational as quick as possible at the lowest possible cost in order to deliver on their primary missions of either serving patients, students, employees, taxpayers, and or their communities. So again, for our customers, building is a means to an end. Now, what was interesting is that not every owner organization was impacted by the statistics I just shared. In fact, when Dodge dug into that data, they found that a best-in-class group that not only beat their schedule, they also delivered projects under budget. And we'll call this group top-performing owners. And they made it into this group by demonstrating that at least 25% of their projects were completed ahead of schedule and 50% of their projects were under budget. So how did the top-performing owners do that? And what did they do differently that allowed them to achieve such breakthrough results? And so let's dig into some of the detail. So there are three main dimensions that we think about when it comes to impacting project performance: people, process, and technology. So let's first look at the difference between top and lower performers across the people and process dimension. So those are the 5 bars that you see on the screen. And what I found interesting when digging into the data is that 58% of top performers are more likely to have clearly defined job roles. So people know what they're supposed to be doing. 49% were more likely to over-communicate. At eBuilder, we talk about Vince Lombardi, where he started every season telling his team, this is a football. You don't assume that everybody understands exactly what they're supposed to be doing. 72% were more likely to effectively engage internal stakeholders. 139% more likely to have a formal training program in place, and 191% more likely to tie incentives to project performance. So again, those are along the people and process dimension. If we look at this now on the technology dimension, which is an area that I like to focus in, is that 58% are more likely to be highly innovative in their use of technology. 36% have standardized and have consistent construction processes. 28% are more likely to frequently measure project performance. And then 39% are more likely to have invested in a PMIS, again, a project information management system. So those are some of the ways that the top performers separate from the lower performers when it comes to the technology dimension. And so I call this the not if, but by how much. So the lack of investment has a direct cost impact. And with the size of the projects and programs that our customers manage, having projects run between 5 and 10% over budget could mean the delay of other major critical projects. So getting projects in under budget is very, very important. So let's talk a little bit about the risks. Why is this happening? So next I want to talk a little bit about the risks of not implementing a PMIS and the benefits of doing so. For me personally, I'm super excited about what the benefits are because risks kind of stink. But let's go ahead and dig into 5 risks that we were able to uncover in another white paper that we published. And so if we look at the 5 risks, poor cost control and a lack of transparency can and will result in very, very nasty surprises. One customer shared a story where $5 million in change orders became visible after a project closed out, and all of the money, the extra money left over on that project, was redistributed. So this resulted in a very, very unpleasant situation, as the unspent money, as I mentioned, had already been distributed to other projects. So now they had to go back and find that $5 million. We've also been doing some recent interviews where we uncovered that items 3 through 5, so lack of standardization, inefficient enforcement, and incomplete or missing information, has been having dramatic impact in auditing. So our customers tell us that their audit process is much simpler, takes much less time, involves less people, and results in fewer findings. One person went so far as to say, and I quote, "You never want to be on the receiving end of a bad audit." Now, I'll end the quote, and what I inferred from that is with the use of eBuilder, you're not going to be on the receiving end of a bad audit. So let's look at some examples of the benefits of actively managing these risks by implementing a PMIS system. So I have a handful of case studies that I want to share with you. And what you'll see here is a port of Olympia, and this is around specifically eliminating spreadsheets on their projects. So you can see in the lower left the challenges of information was difficult to find, too much time on manual data entry, and limited visibility into budget. So that talks to some of the top risks that I talked about. And so by implementing a PMIS, they had everything in one place. They could track budgets through the entire every phase of the project, and they could also manage the budget across the entire program. Because as most people on this call know, managing budgets at the project level is vastly different than also being able to manage them across your entire program. And so the impact of having these systems in place, because again, I'm a benefits guy, is that phone calls and email volume was reduced by 70%. Submittal reviews reduced to 7 days or less. Time earning project information, 50% reduction. Average document retrieval time down to less than 3 minutes. So going back to that audit concept, people can very, very quickly get their hands on documentation they need when they need it. Another example from WSSC is, again, talking about internal audit flagged reporting process issues. Too many spreadsheets, limited remote access. So again, if I'm out in the field, another one of our customers shared a story where he's at a conference and an audit popped up that he wasn't aware of, and he got called saying, we need some specific information now. So he's 1,000 miles away from the office. He told me within 30 minutes he had everything the auditors need and off to back to his conference. So the benefits of implementing a PMIS for these folks was $330,000 a year in efficiency savings. Inspectors were able to save 50% time in the administrative tasks and 20 to 40 hours per day across the 59 inspectors. And then 16 contract managers saved 32 hours per day. So these are material benefits to these different types of solutions. Again, here we had project-by-project spreadsheets. So this talks about the inability to track information at the program level. So the individual project managers could track their projects, which was great for them, but no visibility across the entire program. And then they had, as a result, there was funding trapped in contingency. So a way to mitigate risk, as we all know, is to have contingency in place. And the more visibility that you lack, the higher those contingencies are going to be. So they were able to centralize everything, and for them was really the cost impact abilities. And this is actually personally one of my favorite case studies that we have, because they were able to leverage $70 million. So this was finding $70 million in contingency, unlocking that, and then they're able to start work on a new cancer facility years ahead of what their original capital program said they could. So by having good controls in place, you have the ability to run projects at lower contingencies. We have another one as far as here we have an example of executing on a 4-year, $98 million bond program from an increase of no increase to staff and actively involved stakeholders. So in this example, it really came down to confidence, that the board had confidence in the team that they were going to deliver projects at the appropriate schedule and the appropriate budget. And then eliminated 1,000 hours, 1,000 hours of work per year. So that's a half a full-time employee. And then the other thing is increasing stakeholder involvement. So and during the planning process, so early on. So people were engaging earlier, so they knew what they needed to get done early in the process, rather than having people come in late in the process and then ask for change. And then the last one I have is an example of transparency and accountability. So that's another big theme that we have. Again, less on the auditing side, but more on the people side, is just having an ability to understand what's going on. So that $5 million in change orders that I referred to. And so with the implementation of eBuilder, they feel that they have very good visibility and transparency. So the last one I'm going to talk about is a good handover for the next speaker, and this is at Northeastern University. So I'm not going to dwell on this too much because I don't want to steal any of Gary's thunder. But here we talked about the 27 days of savings by eliminating system reconciliation. So I'm sure Gary will touch on that. and then 67 days per year by removing duplicate payment transactions. So a lot of folks will use the eBuilder platform to do the approval process. Of course, the payments themselves will go out of their financial system. And I just want to end by saying this is not a PMIS system. So anybody on the phone that's using Microsoft Office and paper and feels that they have a PMIS system, then I'll just take a stance that I beg to differ with you. So with that, I'm super excited to hand it over to someone I've known most of my professional career, Gary Younger at Northeastern University.
Great, thank you, Dan. So let me start off by giving you a little bit of a background about Northeastern. It's a university that's located in the heart of Boston. It's in a real urban setting. It was founded in the late 1800s. It encompasses about 8.4 million square feet on 73 acres, has an operating budget of about $1.4 billion, and the university just continues to grow and really attract more talented students. This last year alone, there was about 62,000 applications for 2,800 slots, so there is a lot of growth here at the university. The university here is probably no different than a lot of other universities. A lot of the work is varied. We have about 360 capital project requests a year that we get, which turns into about 250 actual projects. Our yearly spend is about $125 million, and we do things from new construction to deferred maintenance, cosmetic upgrades, site work, utilities, a lot of the standard things that most universities do. One of the signature projects that we have that we used eBuilder on from start to finish was our ISCC complex. The university has a really big push into the research area, and this was a project that was about $225 million, encompassed about 220,000 square feet, and like I said, it was really a flagship to advanced research at the university. So transforming project delivery, when we first started with eBuilder, we had to look at what it is that we wanted to accomplish. What were we trying to achieve here? And at a very high level, we really wanted to try to be a best-in-class in regards to project delivery. So we had 5 key goals that we looked at. We wanted to continue to institute industry best practices, but through the use of technology. We saw that as being a real valuable thing to try to pull technology into the way we deliver projects. We wanted to automate as many project delivery processes as possible. So what does that mean? Processing invoices, change management, funding approvals, all these things we wanted to automate. We wanted to improve program and project reporting, which is no different than probably 99% of the people that work on capital programs. Increase transparency and accountability. And I think ultimately we really wanted to be good stewards of the university's resources. We wanted to make sure that we were delivering projects that were achieving the objectives of the university. So those were our high-level goals. So, along that same theme of trying to transform project delivery, I'll just share with you, we had some obsolete business practices. We had what was called a sneaker net. And what that really meant was we would have a red folder that would have documents in it, and you'd pass the red folder from desk to desk, and you hope you know where it landed the last time. Hopefully it has all the backup, inside the folder. But just a really an outdated process. And there was no automated workflow. Everything was on Excel spreadsheets, like a lot of organizations. We had manual reconciliations between multiple systems, which was really inefficient. Along with that, duplicate efforts. We had inconsistent methods of how we would track schedule and cost, really based on how the project manager, wanted to manage the project. Some stronger than others in certain areas on the administrative side, but really inconsistent there. And then we lacked a real formal document management process. I have what's really called like a junk drawer approach. What I mean by that is that we would put, some folders up on a server, you do some subfolders, and then everyone would just toss their stuff up there, and you hope you can find something at a later date. So we really wanted to, eliminate that and try to create more transparency for a lot of the stakeholders around the university. Because prior to putting the system in, that was really limited. So with the PMIS system in place, just to kind of summarize, we've got consistent templates across the board now from budget and schedule. We really wanted to push an enterprise project management solution, it was really important that we just didn't set this system up just for one particular division, that it really had to span across the whole university and the whole portfolio of projects. We've advanced our reporting capabilities. We've automated as many things as possible, and I have another slide that I'll highlight, but we've automated about 27 different processes. Document management is all done through eBuilder, and that is light years ahead of where we were before. We also use it to manage all of our projects. So whether our project is $20,000 or it's $200 million, they're all managed through the system. It's a requirement of the way we deliver projects. It's a requirement of the firms that we work with, that they will utilize the system to deliver the projects. And we definitely are doing a much better job of managing the university's resources. So as I mentioned, just trying to maximize the PMI system. I'll just summarize this. I won't go through every piece, but we do have standard templates now, everything from budgets, schedule, and documents. We have a sophisticated change management process. We use the project forecasting to kind of generate estimates of completion so we know where we're trending. Cash flow is currently in development. We've got multiple project forms. As I mentioned, our reporting has advanced. We also use time tracking to keep track of the efforts that people have put on capital projects so we can kind of look at resources and potential cost on the management side. And we do our bidding and procurement through eBuilder also. So the procurement of architects and engineers along with general contractors and CMs is all done through eBuilder. So as I mentioned, one of the goals was to try to automate as many business processes as possible. And as I mentioned, there's about 27 that we've automated. And just to give you a flavor for what those things are is we have client MOUs where that's an agreement with the client on what we'll deliver for them. All that has been automated, all of our funding requests. The changes that we do with our designers and our CMs is all done through the system. All of our contract approvals, all of our invoice processing. We've even gone as far as to put our consultant and contractor evaluations in the system, but we do it based off of a point scale. We've created processes where people will basically grade a firm at the end of a project based on a point scale, and then we generate an average for that project and for that firm as a whole. And I think one of the big processes that we've gained a lot of traction on is our project closeout process. It's a very sophisticated closeout process. It sends out notifications to let people know we're going to shut a project down. There are checklists. It causes people to reconcile projects, return funding back to clients. Just does a lot of things to make sure that this is an organized way of closing a project down. And we also look at client surveys in the system. So this next slide is just to kind of show you the growth that we've had over the years. We started this effort in 2014, and as you can see from 2016 all the way to 2018, we continue to really garner a lot of adoption here. So we've processed almost 38,000 automated processes. We're nearing close to 40,000, and that's a lot in the last 3.5, 4 years. We've managed about 1,600 capital project requests through the system. We support over 650 users, and we've managed $500 million of expenses through the system in just a few years. And we have projects valued at almost $700 million. So sizable amount of volume that's going through eBuilder. So then managing a project through eBuilder, as most people can relate, reporting is really a big thing. And we try to maximize the use of reporting through the system to generate everything from general project summaries to overall project statuses, progress photos, all those things we want to be able to report on, and we want to be able to share with people. We've also gone through and tried to move forward with this red light, green light concept to really show some early indicators of how projects are trending, maybe how they're utilizing contingency or how commitments are being compared to budgets. A lot of great information that can be provided on the fly there. We've also tried to expand our dashboard capabilities. So in addition to having hard copy, be able to have information that people can have on their desktop, have on mobile devices, that really give them a sense of what's going on with a project or a program of projects. And this is just an example of one of the dashboards that we actually have in place. As I mentioned, trying to put a system in place that was really an enterprise solution was important to us. And with that said, we really had to make sure that we could integrate this with other systems. And what we've done is we've gone through and we've integrated the system or eBuilder with Archibus, which is a space planning system that we use for other things to manage the campus, ProContractor, which is an estimating tool, and our Banner financial system. So really the goals were to improve the timeliness of data retrieval. We wanted to really maximize the use of data sources around the university. We really wanted to tap into that and utilize that information. We wanted to eliminate the redundancy between systems, this whole thing of taking data in one area and then manually type it into another system and then possibly manually enter it into a third system was really unattractive, that's for sure. And we really did try to push this enter data once concept. So going on like what I said with redundancy, we felt that if we entered a budget in the system once, you should not have to enter that budget again anywhere throughout the project delivery process. Let the system move the data to different points as you move through the project, and that really creates a lot more efficiency. So with that, I will now turn it over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate that. I will begin by giving an overview of the Foothill Gold Line Construction Authority. We're a little bit of a unique agency. We were created back in 1999. We are a single-purpose entity created by a state law in California to build the Gold Line Light Rail project. It's a light rail project that spans approximately 37 miles. When we are complete with building the project, LA Metro will own, operate, and maintain it. So we are a construction authority. It's in our name. We are solely responsible for building the project, and then we hand it over to LA Metro, who will then operate, maintain the system. The state law that created us granted us all the powers necessary to build the project, and due to funding constraints, the project has been determined to be built in 3 different phases. All 3 phases combined resulted in a capital improvement budget of $2.8 billion, and so that is for all 3 phases of the project. The first phase of the project went from Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles at Union Station to Pasadena, the eastern part of Pasadena. That project was completed on time and within budget and began revenue service in July of 2003. What we call Phase 2A of the project picked up there in Pasadena and extended the project another 11.3 miles to the city of Azusa in LA County. That project was also completed on time and within budget. Revenue service began a little over 2 years ago in March of 2016. And we are currently working on the 3rd and final phase of the project. We're in the final stages of the planning process, and we are in the procurement phase of that. We're going to hire a design-build contractor to build the project, and we anticipate substantial completion to be in January of 2016. It's a rather long project due to existing tracks that need to be relocated. So it is a 7-year project. As far as project delivery goes, we set our goals to deliver a high-quality project on time, within budget, and built safely. Those are the basic fundamental goals of any project, to provide the project on time, within budget, meeting quality standards, and being built safely. So those are our focuses that we work on every day. Anything and everything we do, we have those goals in mind. And to do that, our general approach is to stick to basically project management fundamentals and simplify things as much as possible. These are very complex projects. The project that we're working on right now is a $1.5 billion project. It goes through 6 cities, 2 counties. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of information, a lot of coordination that has to be done. So we try to follow basic fundamentals of project management and keep things as simple as possible. In doing that, we identify the construction authority's responsibilities and track our progress. And we use a PMIS system to do that and to track our progress and how we're achieving our responsibilities and to monitor the health of the project. And then we take that information from the PMIS system and report that back to the project stakeholders. Our experience without a PMIS system, or certainly my experience without a PMIS system on this project and other projects that I've worked on, there's no automated processes. There's multiple spreadsheets that multiple different people have, results in missing information, contradictory information, inconsistent methods, people having different expenditure amounts, different information in essentially every regard, limited documentation management capabilities, limited reporting capabilities. To report, you have to pull information from various different spreadsheets and cobble things together. And on a few projects that I've worked on, not the goal line projects, but a few of the projects I've worked on have not having these types of systems has resulted in budget and schedule overruns. My experience with PMIS, we had a PMIS system on our Phase 2A project, and we have one on our current Phase 2B project. We have automated processes. We've identified our processes, and it is a sort of a seamless flow of documentation as the information works its way through the system. There's one location for project information, and that's really important. You don't have information with multiple different people where you have to cobble together to provide reporting. The information is consistent because it is in one location. It is not different people following different processes. And there's a lower probability for incorrect information. Obviously, if there's incorrect information input into the system, then that will be incorrect. But there's not, different people's information and conflicting information. Have advanced document management capabilities. It's really nice. You can go into the program and find whatever documents you're looking for fairly easily. Highly flexible reporting capabilities. There's an enormous amount of information contained in the PMIS system, and you can tailor reports in many different ways, whatever works best for what you're doing, and whatever information you're depending on your audience, you can tailor the information to that audience. It's an excellent tool to track the project health and the status of the project. Very helpful for that. The PMIS features we've used on the project to date include budget performance and tracking. That's very important. Very simple using the system. All the information is the original contract amount is put into the system. All of the change management process is through the system, and that helps track our current commitments on the project. And then we have we use it also for project forecasting. We forecast the current potential change orders that we have on the project and other pressures on the project, and we can forecast using the system. We use it for simple things like meeting minutes, Very important for us. We have it's a design build project, so we have a lot of submittals that we have to process. So we use it to for all of our submittals. It's a great tracking tool to keep track of that. We have certain time requirements in which we have to respond to design submittals, construction submittals, RFIs, and this allows me to track our performance every week. I sit down and go through our performance, and we pay special attention to any of those documents that are approaching the deadline. We use it also for our quality compliance documentation, and we use it for all of our document control on the project. The first PMIS system we implemented on the Foothill Goal Line project was back in 2010. Prior to that, on the first phase of the project, we did have a patchwork of generally spreadsheets to manage the project. We were fortunate and we were successful on that project. We did complete it within budget and on time, but it was very kind of haphazard in how things were done. It was very disorganized. And when I took over the project as the Chief Project Officer in 2009, I wanted to implement a PMIS system that would contain all of that information and help organize things, automate things, develop good sound processes that we follow. I think those are key things to helping the project be successful. As I said, I believe it's a vital part of project success, having a PMIS system. The previous vendor that we used, it was a Primavera product. They phased that product out, and so we conducted an extensive evaluation beginning in 2016 for a replacement. We evaluated many different products that are out available right now, and we found that eBuilder was the appropriate or the best system for us that met our needs. We thought that it was what I'm calling owner-friendly. I thought it provided the capabilities that us as an owner needed, and so that was really nice. We liked the user interface. We thought it was more intuitive and just kind of more visually attractive. We liked the process and workflow customization. We do things a certain way that's probably a little bit different than other agencies, other owners, certainly other government owners. We're very small, and so we have a certain way we like to do business, and the eBuilder allowed us to customize the processes and workflows to match that process. So we really liked that a lot. We also liked the accessibility or the accessibility of the system. It allows us to send, we have some very large submittals that come in for the design submittals, and it allows us to send links of those documents to other project stakeholders for them to open up, so you don't have to attach those large files. So that was nice. And then the pricing was right for us. It was one of the most affordable ones that we had, and it worked very well with us. So that basically gives you an overview of our experience here at the Foothill Goal Line on the using a PMIS system. And now I'm going to hand it over to Derek for question and answers.
All right, great, thanks, and thank you all for a great presentation. Now we'll have our presenters address some questions that have been submitted throughout the program, and we appear to have plenty of time for questions, so if you have one, be sure to get them in. So this first question I have here is for Dan. Do you have any thoughts on how the digital age can promote more cost transparency?
Yeah, I like this question a lot because when I mentioned in the front end where I talked about people, process, and technology being the three dimensions, the technology can certainly help make transparency, so sharing information, much easier. But at the end of the day, that's really a people and process question, which the software can only support. So the level of transparency that an owner wants, the level of transparency that they can get from their contracting partners and design partners, again, that's a people and process question. But certainly digitizing information makes it a heck of a lot easier to share and make transparent.
And this question is for Gary. Did the university hire a consultant to help set up the process and PMIS?
What we did a few years back was the university was really growing, and some of the business processes that were here, they were kind of basic. So a consultant was brought in to just look at project delivery functions, and they did some initial work with us on kind of defining that, doing some basic setup with an e-builder on some workflows and things like that. And then they kind of moved off, and then the project controls group within the university really just took that further and developed it over the last couple of years.
And Chris, what systems, and we don't need to go name competitors, but what other systems were considered in your decision?
We looked at Aconex, Procore. We looked at quite a few. I mean, we looked at, I think we were looking at 4 to 6, probably around 6 of them. We did a very deep dive into it. We spent a lot of time with that because we really wanted to, find the right one for us. And so we spent a lot of time doing that. We had the different vendors come in and show us how the system worked. We asked a lot of questions. We spent a lot of time going through that process. And I would recommend, that people do that to make sure you find the right fit. We also did look at Unifier, but at the end of the day, we thought eBuilder was really the right fit for us. It's probably a personal preference and personal opinion, but to us, it was by far the overwhelming choice for us.
Great.
Sorry, Dan, real quick. I just want to jump in on this because really what the intent behind doing this presentation is less about convincing you about eBuilder. We would like to do that in time, but it's really just do something. So the fact that Chris and his team looked at all those different systems, the good news is that Chris was already on a PMIS. He just needed to move off of that onto another one. But my real begging item for people on the call who are using Office and paper, just do something. And then if you're going to do something, then at least consider us. But don't continue to operate on Excel and paper.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. It's really, I think it's really critical to having a well-run project, having a PMIS system.
Great. And this question is for Chris, I believe, or I guess others can chime in as well. Is the PMIS system customizable, or does it have a standard dashboard and specific predetermined reports that are available?
It's highly customizable, and that's the great part about it. We do business a certain way, and we've been able to customize the processes, the dashboard, the reporting. You can customize. There are obviously some limitations to it, but there's a lot of flexibility in general, and obviously it depends on the product that you're using. But some are flexible, more flexible in some ways, and less flexible in others. But there's generally a lot of flexibility that allows you to view the information in certain ways, report on the information in certain ways, and then eBuilder is very flexible when it comes to processes. You can create a custom process in how you do things, and that's really, really helpful in where the system can be adapted to your process instead of you adapting to their process.
Great. And this question is for Gary. This listener wants to know, what tools do you have to capture leading indicators such as risk, safety, performances of your project teams?
Right now we're just using eBuilder. What we'll do sometimes is, like with our evaluations, we'll build a process in the system to try to capture that. We're looking at expanding some of those processes into other things like design review process, things like that, but we currently just use eBuilder right now, and we do try to expand the use of dashboards to capture some of that kind of metric data, project health, things like that, but that's all we have right now.
Okay. And let's go, let's see, I'm losing track of who asked a question, last, or answered a question last. Chris, what were the key attributes that you most needed?
For the PMIS system?
Yeah.
Really tracking submittals is very important to us. We have a certain requirement to respond to submittals in a certain time. So I wanted to be able to keep track very closely of how my team is performing and to ensure that absolutely no submittals we would go over our allotted time. So that's very important to me, having that tracking capability. And then the budget and forecasting is also very important. So what we do is we have the original contract value, and then we also use the change order or change management function within the system. And that allows us to track executed change orders. So we look at the original contract price, then we look at the executed change orders to date, and then we look at potential change orders. We have potential change orders that are, in some level of being, reviewed. We assign dollar amounts to that, and that allows us to kind of keep track of where we are on a budget standpoint. So those are sort of the key things that I really wanted. Also wanted to have all of the information in one location where if I can I can go into the system and I can find any document for whatever I'm looking for. So it's all a central location that I can search no matter where I am. All I need is access to the internet, and I can bring up any document that's related to the project. So those were the main things that we were looking for.
And Gary, how long did it take to fully implement the eBuilder system for your program?
I would say it took us a good probably 18 months, and that may sound long, but the way I explain it to people is, you sit down with groups and you have to look at the business processes and work through all those things, and that's 5 or 6 months in itself. You're trying to figure out what you're going to automate. Then by the time you configure, the system in a certain manner, you then start providing all kinds of training, getting people involved. I think it's about 18 months before you really start getting some meaningful information out of the system, and you get into a really good rhythm of people adopting the system. I mean, one of the things that we had is when we put the system out there, this had to be a system that served all people, or I should say all firms that worked on our projects. So our designers, our CMs, they're in the system. They're required to put their invoices, their pay applications in, their change request, documentation. So it's a sizable effort, but once you get beyond that and you get in a pretty good rhythm, it really was all worth it. I think we're in a pretty good space right now, working with those firms.
And Dan, this question is asking, most contractors have their own PMIS system, often integrated with their project financial and cost records. So how do these contractor-based systems interface with an e-builder type system when the contractor still wants to use his own system?
Yeah, that's a good and not easy question in today's fragmented market. So the reality is, and it would be interesting to hear from Gary and Chris what they do with their contractors, because one of the things I found very interesting, I came out of the contractor market when I was with Primavera, and then I spent years in the architectural and engineering market with Newforma, and in both instances they had systems in place. And in the owner marketplace, we found that to be much less true. Now, with eBuilder being part of the Trimble family, of course, one answer to that question is that we have a contractor PMIS solution, and that solution will natively work with the eBuilder owner platform. For other PMIS systems for contractors from other people, not Trimble, then there'll be ways to integrate the systems. But right now, I know effectively what I hear quite a bit is that on our owners' projects, they will use eBuilder for that project. And if they want to key all that information back into their own PMIS system, that's their choice. But for the owner, they want all the information entered into eBuilder. So I don't know, Gary or Chris, if you have any other color.
No, I was just going to say that, the market has really changed, or I should say the landscape has really changed. I would say in the last 10 years, owners have really jumped on this and want to be in control of all the data related to their capital program. And I think from an owner standpoint, that's been good. And, there was a time there where I think CMs and GCs were kind of testing the owners about what their commitment was, how serious they were about this. And I know in our particular situation, once they realized that it's the way we do business, and if they want to get paid, if they need changes, things like that, it's not going to get processed unless they, learn how to do this and do it through the system. There is some duplication in certain things. It's going to be very hard to bridge that because CMs have their own systems on accounting sides with their subs and things like that. But I will say a lot of the projects that we work on, the firms are working within our submittal module, running our RFI processes, documentation, all that stuff. They are doing that now within our system.
Yeah, and on our project, we have a requirement in our contract that we use our system for all of the project documentation between us, the owner, and the contractor, the design builder. And so if they have their own system, which many of these companies that we deal with are large, heavy civil contractors, and they do have their own systems, they use that separately internally. It's not, if they choose to do that, that's not something that we generally have access to or see, but we require all of the project information to be to go through our PMIS system. And on our last project, we didn't have any issues with that at all.
And sort of kind of along those lines, managing stakeholders and consultants in a public agency is a difficult and complex task. How does PMIS help you accomplish this in a clear and transparent manner?
I don't know, Chris, we're working for at least a somewhat public agency. If you want to take a crack at that first, do you want me to?
I can. Yes, it is a rather difficult task. Because we have a design build process, we actually require our contractor to do a lot of that, the day-to-day legwork with the cities on the project and many of the other third parties. So they actually communicate directly. The way we chose to do it, they actually communicate directly with the third party. They copy us on information through the PMIS system, and we have staff assigned to help facilitate the relationship between the contractor and the third party. That's how we did it on the previous phase of the job, and it worked pretty well for us. I don't know if there's any perfect way of doing it. It is a big challenge for us. But I think it worked out pretty well for us, and that's how we handled it on the last phase, and that's how we're handling it on this next phase coming up.
Okay. And Gary, how many staff are involved in the university project controls, and was a training manual for end user PMs and execs done?
Yeah, so within the project controls group, I lead that effort. That's one body there, and then we have 4 people that kind of work as 2 teams to support the project management staff, support all the AEC firms that we work with. We have an archivist for as-builds, things like that, and then we have a budget analyst who will review pay applications, changes, things like that. So that's pretty much what the staff is. In regards to training materials, we have a pretty advanced training program. We have some what we call express trainings, and we offer those twice a week, 1 hour apiece. And it's basically if a firm needs to know how to do an invoice within the system, they come in, we provide them with a 1 hour training early in the morning, get them in, get them out, so that they can be proficient in that. And then we've even created these things called wayfinders, which are meant to be like 3 or 4 pages with a lot of screenshots of hit this button, hit that button to process different things. And those have been pretty valuable. But we really do invest a lot in training, and as much effort as it takes, I think it was huge because I think it's put us in the position that we are today of just being able to provide that support and making sure that people are following best practices.
Great. And Dan, this question, this audience member wants to know, what is the long-term expectation of eBuilder or any PMIS being supported?
Yes, this is a great question, especially for organizations like Chris, where they have projects that are lasting years and years. Some of them go into a decade-long project. So to me, it's important to invest in a company that you know is going to be around, because I'm sure switching PMIS systems for Chris wasn't a seamless and pleasurable experience. And eBuilder's been around for 20 plus years with no intention on going anywhere. And one of the things a lot of our customers like is that we're myopically focused on owners. So I know there's quite a few contractors on the call today. I'm sure many of them may have touched eBuilder, but eBuilder, the platform we built, is hyper optimized for owner organizations to run their capital programs, and there's nothing that's going to cause us to go anywhere for the foreseeable future.
And we're running short on time here, so we'll have time for one last question. So this is a tough one to ask. Adapting eBuilder to existing project that uses all the old-fashioned processes. That's the end of the question. I assume, how do you adapt eBuilder to an existing project that uses, quote, all the old-fashioned processes?
So the big thing, and there was a question about how customizable is the platform. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the things we take great pride in, and it's one of the areas, like Gary mentioned, about doing business process automation and reviewing the business processes before you then go and use a solution or a platform like eBuilder. So the product is customizable, so if you want to use old processes and have the product follow that, then it can be configured that way. We may challenge you during the implementation and the consulting parts to make sure that's what you indeed want to do, because automating an inefficient process just helps you be inefficient more quickly. So usually we strongly encourage people to really sit down and think about process that was built around paper and the way things used to be done. But I'm sure it's possible.
All right, great. And that's all the time we have for questions today. Please join me in thanking Dan Connery, Gary Younger, and Chris Berner for their presentations, as well as our sponsor, eBuilder. If you have any additional questions or comments, please don't hesitate to click the Email Us button on the console. As you exit today's webinar, please take a couple of minutes to complete our survey. We strongly welcome your detailed comments. Please visit enr.com/webinars for the archive of this presentation, as well as information about our upcoming events. Make sure to tune in for our next upcoming webinar, the 2018 Top 400 Contractors Unveiled. That's going to air on May 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope you found this webinar to be a valuable experience. Have a great day.